This is AIW President Matt Wadsworth, and you're listening to me right here on Wrestling Cheers.
Making your way in the world today takes everything you got. Taking a break from all your worries sure would help a lot. Wouldn't you like to get away? Sometimes you want to go where everybody knows your name, and they're always glad you came. You want to go where you can see that troubles are all the same. You want to go where everybody knows your name. You want to go where you can see that troubles are all the same. You want to go where everybody knows your name.
And welcome back to Wrestling Cheers, where everybody knows your name and everybody's got a price. This is Wrestling Cheers. We like to talk about things going to Northeast style independent wrestling scene. We preview shows, we review shows, and sometimes we even have interviews along the way. This is a review episode for AIW 200th show, just simply titled 200. I am your host. I am Justin Summers, and Wrestling Cheers is brought to you by the Trending Topics Network and Midwest Territory. Please rate, review, and subscribe. You're ever listening to this fine podcast, whether it be Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, YouTube, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or Podbean, WrestlingCheers.podbean.com. Find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Facebook.com/WrestlingCheers, Twitter.com/WrestlingCheers, and Instagram.com/WrestlingCheers. Email, if you so choose to desire, WrestlingCheers@gmail.com. Like I said, this is a review for AIW's 200th, aka their 200th show. Told you who I am, and this week we're going to go a little bare bones. We're just going to have two people on. We have myself as one, and number two, we have Rick.
Hey, how are you?
How's it going? How was your weekend? How was your experience at the show?
I love the Akron venue. I don't know why. It's just one of my favorite places to be. The Tadmor Shrine. It's so interesting that we get such just a different cross section of people where you get
Yes.
all those Akron fans who come on in and we don't usually see them. It's weird to look at the front row and of course I see you up there in the front row and the usual crew, but at the same time like half of the ring front row is all these different people. So I don't know. I like that venue. I really, really enjoy the place. And of course, Brock outside slinging up the brisket before the show definitely helped out the morale on a kind of chilly day.
I'll get to that in a minute, but Tadmor Shrine checks off a lot of boxes for me. Parking is free. There is ample amount of room to wait inside. It can get a little crowded because it's not like a lot of room, but if you get there about an hour or so before the doors open, there's going to be plenty of room. It's just like when you get closer to doors opening, it gets a little more congested. Also, like the venue itself, there's a lot of seating. It's right now the only place where we have bleachers. So if you like bleacher seating, you miss bleacher seating is available. There's plenty of ringside space and enough room, not as much, but like there's enough room for merch. I think at the Rubber City Con, there was a lot more that like wrestlers tried to use up as much space as they could for that. I mean, granted, it being like such a much longer show. Bringing in like some of the big guests, like that's always going to create like a long line, whether it was Harley Race, Steamboat, this one with DiBiase. All in all, like there's a lot of like really, really good things that I love about this venue. And then we go back to like the parking. Yes, it's free. It's ample. And then we did do the tailgate, provided by Brock. On his birthday, he brought brisket and smoked macaroni and cheese. It was excellent. I think the brisket went pretty quick.
Yeah, it was great. I mean, we had everybody out there. Fonzie came out, stopped by, and said hello for a little while. Smoking Jay's Barbecue. That's his, I guess the company name. That he's doing all the catering under. Jeff also, nice little shout out to him. He had homemade chicken noodle soup that he brought. Thinking it was going to be a little bit of a chilly day, which it wasn't actually too bad, but. The portable propane in the trunk of his trunk of the car with the giant pot of soup. So that was definitely a nice shout out to him for thinking of us.
So much with that. And then this is something we talked about before recording, and it's something that I'm kind of maybe realizing like this is what's going to make these Akron shows really important to AIW. I understand the importance of getting like a lot of Cleveland shows in because, you know, that's where the core fan base is, and having another big reason why I like the Tadmor Shrine. It's literally 20 minutes from my house, and most of that is some like little bit minor traffic that I have to go through. But it's like I get on Route 8 to 77, I get off on Arlington, and boom, I'm there. It's like it's a very, very easy drive for me. But while we were doing the whole tailgating thing, I happened to run into a friend of mine who's a part of my local Kent Browns backers. And they've been going to some other local shows that I do attend. So like I thought that was cool, but I never said anything to them about AIW. And it's not like I'm embarrassed. It's just I think he's going to this other show. I don't know if he's going to want to pay the money for this better AIW show, and he did. And I think there is a cross section of the fans that are going to be Akron only, and maybe they get so into it that they go, oh, Kevin Nash is going to be at the next show here in a couple weeks, Black Friday? Huh, I'm going to have to go to that show. And then they get hooked. So I know there's a lot of people out there that like don't like Akron shows for whatever reason, but it can turn out to be a really good thing. So I was really surprised to see him. And I always hope I see more and more friends at AIW. And then I don't know about you, Rick, but I try to tell a lot of my local friends about AIW when I can. Like there was one friend a couple months back was really dogging WWE. He was really mad at a pay-per-view ending. Shocker, that never happens in WWE. That's sarcasm. And then he was like, oh, I can't wait for AEW to start up, and another dude, a fellow friend of mine also, I was like, yeah, I can't wait for that too. It looks really good. And then I was just like, and the one dude he's not from, but he's living in Lakewood. I'm like, dude, like AIW, backyard for you. Like, well, when they were there more often, but still, like, it's so close for you. And like what you would see in AEW, Joey Janela was in AIW. Britt Baker, who you would see in AEW, is in AIW. And so many more. And it's like, dude, don't sleep on this. This isn't the shindy wrestling group that you see on Fox 8. Like, this is way better.
Yeah, I find myself, when I do watch those shows, I just annoy my wife when I say, oh, you know what? Hey, I saw this match in AIW 2 years ago. You know, I saw this person in AIW 3 years ago. I saw this person 2 years ago. Or you know, last week you were just saying, you know, Shayna Baszler, Mia Yim, and all these folks, Britt Baker and Adam Cole, all these guys that are wearing belts on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday, whatever night of the week you watch wrestling. I think you can pretty much watch it any night of the week at this point, can't you?
Yeah, like you can watch wrestling Monday through Friday now.
Yeah, it seems pretty confusing. And then if you want to watch, if you want to watch Corny Jim on YouTube, you can do that too.
But yeah, there's just, I mean, granted, like we're definitely preaching to the masses we're preaching to the choir. That's what I meant to say. Because I mean, a lot of people who are listening to this have to know about AIW, and it's just something that I know I kind of go through. But having like someone that I know just kind of show up, and I don't know where he heard about it, or maybe it's because he started following a little bit more other companies that, oh, maybe he was targeted on an ad, and he was like, oh, like Akron. Oh, that's right down the road from the other wrestling I go to. Oh, okay, I'll go.
Yeah, the world famous John Thorne Facebook ad.
But I know like the next day at Browns Backers, like I was like talking about the show with him. Someone who doesn't really, obviously doesn't know a lot of the people, didn't know who like Danhausen was and all this kind of stuff. So it was like him like explaining stuff to people, and then I had to like fill in the blanks, like, okay, this is Danhausen and this is blah blah blah. And I actually had one dude ask me, he was like, oh, is that the company that Johnny Gargano used to be with? And I was just like, yeah. And then he's like, oh, he was like, because we were talking about Kevin Nash. He's like, oh yeah, I know Kevin Nash did something with them years ago. I'm like, no, different company. Johnny's been with two local companies. The one with Nash is no longer around, but also at the same time he was doing AIW, and it's not necessarily the same thing, but it's still like Cleveland and like all this other history with them.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. You don't normally do a lot of meet and greets, so was this down your alley, or what would you do?
Yes and no. Yes, this was absolutely in my wheelhouse. I've talked about this with I'm probably on here before, where I am late 80s into 90s. I'm one of those that grew up with, I picked up about the time of WrestleMania 2 So I remember all the 80s cartoon characters kind of, Million Dollar Man was way in my wheelhouse. At the same time, I have a very hard time standing in line for that long to meet anybody. So I just never got around to it. You get to intermission and it's nice and easy to go do it. But then I find myself talking to the local guys, and, I was just telling you, we had, Levi Everett was there, and the world famous Mouse was there, a bunch of guys that I wanted to meet that I've never met before. So I took that time to just say hi to those people and, touch base with, some different fans. And, you get to where you see those guys once a month or maybe once every 2 months. Some people skip the bar Winchester shows. People have jobs that require them to get up in the morning, and that, that's stupid. I don't know why anybody would want to do that, but it kind of is what it is. So I did not. I know for a fact that you got a photo taken, minimum, with the $1 Million Man. How was that?
That was fun. I think for me, like what I wanted to do, but I ended up changing my mind on as just more of a financial thing, is that I wanted to get either a carded Hasbro of one of his first two figures, because I always forget he has three, because there was one that I think came out late and he's just in trunks and he punches. But there's the two that are in the suit. One's the black suit and the other one's the green suit. I have like both of them loose, but like my favorite is the black. That's the one I had as a kid. And like I wanted to try to find like that on mint on card, and like that runs about $150. Some people call me crazy for saying this, like that's not horrible. I mean, I'm comparing that to the Atom Bomb, like carded is like $200, $300, $400 depending. But either wanted that, or there was another. It was a black suit $1 Million Man figure. I think it's Shaq's. Probably, I'm speaking foreign to you, and I barely can speak it. But it's there's like called entrance crates where it was like it's a bigger figure.
Oh yeah.
But like he came in the black suit, and I thought that was really cool. But that was still going to be about $50, and I'm just like, eh. And I just like said, fuck it. I did the $30 combo, so that means I get an 8x10 because I don't have anything to get signed. So I just did that and did the picture. And like he's one of those dudes that he was one of the great bad guys when I was a kid. Like I always put Owen and Jeff Jarrett really high up there because that's when was more in my wheelhouse. But like when I was way younger, like 5, 6, like that's definitely like one of the biggest bad guys. And like I remember more with the $1 Million Corporation and him bringing in Austin, and then having his final appearance for many years was Savio Vega versus Stone Cold. Indian strap match, or Puerto Rican strap match. I think that might have been, but still, those are my memories. But like, it's still fun. He's still like watching some of his promos and like some of that stuff. Like he was so good. I love the $1 Million belt. And did you see that dude? We gotta mention this. Came in with like 6 belts or something like that.
I saw quite a few. I counted at least 3 $1 million belts. Now I don't know where you get them. I don't care where you get them. I'm not going to get one. But at the same time, I'm not a fan of belt guy. I'm not a fan. But even when I saw a couple of people walking through with that $1 million belt, I'm like, you know what? That's a good looking belt. If I was going to be belt guy, that would probably be the one I would choose. I did see the person in question that had like 6 belts. I don't get it, but obviously it was something that he's just down with, I guess good for him.
Everybody has their weird thing. Like I know I'm sitting in my office with a bunch of like weird stuff that I kind of collect. But I think of like with that, like belts, it's like there's a lot of belts and they aren't cheap. I mean, yeah, you can get quote cheap belts and those are like more for kids. But if you want to get like a bigger heavy duty belt, like you're spending at a minimum of like $400.
Yeah. The only belt that I'm interested in, I was having this discussion with Stacy at the show, is the Black Craft belts.
Yes.
The tag team I believe the main event was the tag title holders. And then of course our dear friend Matthew Justice, who killed a man to win his Black Craft belt. And if Matt Justice or the main event is listening at this point, contact me, because there's a deal that can be made to make you to make you part with that piece of history of maybe dubious history. I don't know how you want to frame it, but that certainly was the Mania show that everybody was talking about from last year.
Yeah.
Oh, I said that last year, but this year, whatever. It is what it is.
This past. I understand what you meant.
Thank you for framing it correctly.
I'll openly say, like, I'm not a belt guy, but I do own one replica belt. But I don't know if that thing is ever... Well, I know it's going to leave my house eventually. But, like, it's going to be a rare occasion.
Yeah.
Like, and I bought the Winged Eagle because I love that belt.
Oh, yeah.
Like, that's...
Because that one's... Yeah. That's the Cadillac of belts.
I have the Winged Eagle costume belt that was out in the mid to late... That was more of a late 90s thing. I bought it off Thrift Store Jobber at a show because I walked in, I like seen it, like I had it as a kid, but mine got messed up, and like it's literally sitting up or posted above the doorway of my office, just kind of like on the wall. Like it looks like I'm trying to show off a championship, but it's just a piece of shit. Thin leather, thin plastic, but I don't know, like that to me, that's memories.
Whatever, yeah.
But yeah, that belt dude, like having that fucking many, like he got, I think for some reason he got let in early, but I don't know if he stayed for the show. Like I think he just got the shit signed and left.
Maybe he just came in for the meet and greet. I don't know. I'd be anxious to know how many of those belts he got signed.
I think he got all of them. Like, I mean, you're not gonna bring a belt and not get it signed, right? I mean, if you are if you're gonna bring,
thankfully that's not my wheelhouse.
If you're gonna carry into a show that many belts, wouldn't you figure he would get it signed? Because I know people show up with like one belt, they don't get it signed. But when you're showing up with that, man, like a fucking stack, you're talking.
Maybe the guy thought that he actually would have to defend them, so he was, that way if he would lose 2 or 3, he'd still be all right.
I saw it early in the night, but I don't know if I saw it later on. There was a dude with a Money in the Bank briefcase.
Oh yeah, my son has one of those. My kid, I don't know, money bags or whatever. He's got a United States title that he just bought himself, and then he's got one of the hard. It's like reminds me of the IRS case.
Mm-hmm.
That hard metal case. Like that thing's legit. I mean, you could clock somebody with it if you really wanted to.
All right, we've talked about a lot of the pre-show stuff and our special guest Ted DiBiase, which we'll get into a little bit later. We start off the show with Wes Barkley versus CPA. I love me some CPA.
I agree. I love me some CPA, and I've completely 180'd on Wes Barkley. I love me some Wes Barkley. I was one of those people in the beginning. I hate this guy. I hate his family. I hate his fans. I hate whatever city he came from. I freaking love Wes Barkley. I don't think that he's the best wrestler that you're going to see. But he is one of the best guys at getting the crowd really, really riled up. I mean, almost to the point where he probably spends a little bit too much time interacting with the crowd. But there are a lot of people who have just absolute terrible, terrible vitriol towards Wes. They really want to see him get knocked around. They want to see him get, hurt. If you catch my air quotes through the old podcast machine. But, I was really happy to see CPA back. I think a lot of us were on the CPA train. The guy's kind of got his little local legend status through, all of his various escapades, if you will. But, pretty basic match. And man, I tell you what, just really, really happy to see CPA.
I'll go on record and say it here. For those who don't know about the whole CPA situation with the whole dumpster story. Now, I'm not going to get into it exactly, no. But what I will tell you, check out the podcast that he is on. It's called Off the Hop Rope, and it's a watch-along podcast where him, Top Shelf Troy Nelson, and Smart Mark Sterling watch wrestling while pairing it with a particular beer. And they get into other conversations before they get into a lot of that stuff of how their week was, and maybe, because they will record some back to back to back. So they had that story, and if you go to the September 5th episode, episode 66, when they pair Budweiser with the Bam Bam versus LT from WrestleMania 11, that's kind of the pre-show thing that they go into, and fun episode mainly because because they normally do craft beers, but for this one, going into football season, they pick obviously a football-related match, and they pick a football-related beer, Budweiser. And just throwing it out there for those who don't know, there was also episode 73 where they watched Edge versus Christian in a First Blood match from Raw, or not Edge versus Christian, Edge versus Gangrel in a, not First Blood, Bloodbath match. And they drank Nosferatu from Great Lakes Brewing Company, and that was provided by myself, basically more from, kind of like from Wrestling Cheers. So it's kind of cool to do that. Maybe more of that coming soon. We'll see how Hell on Earth goes, but 2 episodes I would highly suggest, but definitely, if anything, that episode 66, because he goes into the story himself, and they try not to. He does try to watch what he says. He did give me a peek behind the curtain and told me like what it was like recording all that, but they had to make sure, nothing would like come back and bite them in the ass, basically.
Oh yeah.
So if you want to get that story, check it out. Great show. CPA is great. Smart Mark Sterling's great. I don't know that much about Troy Nelson, but anyway, let's back into Wes Barkley. Man, was the Barkley Nation there?
I didn't see a member of the Barkley Nation. I saw quite a few members of the Bishop Brigade, but the Barkley Nation has fallen off the face of the earth.
I think they pick and choose.
Yeah, you're probably right. Wrestle Rager, I know, was a big Barkley Nation.
Oh, that was a big Barkley Nation.
It was.
So, like, they'll show up to, like, that. They'll show up a couple other ones, but maybe not the Akron shows anymore. Maybe not some other shows. But, like, that is where the Bishop Brigade picks up because of, like, where Joshua Bishop is from. But this was a fun way to start off the show. Always great seeing CPA. He's begun to be a staple in AIW, and I absolutely love it. Any thoughts or memories about the match?
No, almost nothing. It probably was the tailgate Miller Lite. So, like I said, Miller Lite can be a hell of a drug when you you don't usually. I'm not much of a drinker. I'm not. I'm pretty boring at 42 years old. I'm not much of a drinker. I'm certainly not an extracurricular activity guy. I usually like to get there and I was sitting by Pam, who was on her 3rd ice cream sundae by this point. And that's probably the extent of me. I know it was pretty basic, tons and tons of Barkley going after the crowd. CPA, I was just happy to hear Warrior probably 3 times. There's nothing better than bang, bang, I am the Warrior with a room full of people. This is how I could tell too that it was not a normal AIW crowd. Because generally when stuff like that happens, even just theme music, chants, things like that. If this was Odeon, that whole place, explodes with bang, bang, I am the Warrior. And it was just kind of a muffled, so a lot of folks that probably had not seen CPA before were exposed to him. So I think that's a great thing for, our friend from New York.
I don't have as much memory about this either. I will throw this out too. I kind of stopped doing the Instagram videos, mainly because some of these venues and in between my service provider of Sprint, like it just doesn't work of like sending out all these like little videos, and it takes a while for Instagram to send them out. So at the same time, while it's trying to get sent out and I'm trying to do tweets, it just bogs down my phone like horribly. So what I've decided to do, and this was the first show that I did it from beginning to end, and some matches got it more than others, but I recorded just little videos, and I've compiled them all together. I'm going to throw them on YouTube in I'm going to give it a little breathing room, because there's one full segment that I have on here, not a full match, but kind of a full segment, and I want I want a little bit of time to breathe, but I'll eventually throw that up on YouTube. Not as much memories from this match, but it was a great opening bout, like you said, CPA, but Wes Barkley kind of like going after the crowd a little bit, and it kind of made sense. Like, soon as like this match was first, I was like, okay, I know what the main event is now, because we're getting this done early.
Yep.
And it was CPA who won via pinfall. Oh, also, no Caden at this show, so you got me tweeting results, so there's not going to be any moves, because I have always been shitty at move names.
Yes. Just get it done.
Yeah, just like They won by pinfall. They won by submission. Referee stoppage. Count out. And then some of these, like I couldn't remember who pinned who. Like for tag matches. Obviously, singles, I know who pins who. A pins B. But anyway, next up we had kind of a Creative Pro theme going on early on. VSK versus Danhausen.
I know you're a huge Danhausen guy.
Love that Danhausen. I don't know if you know
And
that.
Maybe I'll take some flack. I am not as big of a Danhausen guy as the rest of y'all. God bless you all. I've seen the tequila spot. It was fun the first couple times I saw it. Yeah, okay. Spicy water, it has its bit of charm from the internet video with him and Alley Cat. Smart dude. I like Danhausen a lot. VSK we haven't seen, and here's your Caden lookup reference. I believe the last time we saw VSK was 2016, unless I'm incorrect, at Double Dare with the Oil Master.
Which was 3 years ago as of this recording.
So you can check me on that, but I'm pretty sure that's right. I actually asked VSK after the match. I said, "Hey, so what's up? Where's your massage oil?" And he just kind of stone faced looked at me and said, "That portion of my life is over with. I've moved on." So I know VSK is in for Hell on Earth. So he did tell me that he was going to be in. So kind of cool, that he was able to get in. I think it was probably a surprise to a lot of people that he went over on Danhausen clean, especially with, Derek standing right there at ringside. The director did have the spicy water in his face. So I've never had the spicy water in my face. So I don't know, if it's equivalent to the green mist or the orange mist or whatever, what it causes, but it probably causes temporary paralysis and blindness. I don't want to drink the spicy water, let alone have it spat into my face. But surprised to me that VSK won. I was not upset about it. But I liked VSK. I was really, really happy to see him.
So you just cut to the chase. VSK pinned Danhausen. But a thing that I'll throw out, he says that part of his life is over, but there was a couple points in the match that, I don't know if you caught it, like VSK was like trying to massage Danhausen.
Well, you go back to what you know.
Yeah.
It's old habits die hard. Spicy water.
So I seen that. And this had a lot of the maybe usual Danhausen spots, but I don't know, I think that's what makes it fun. And also this is like a different market. Let's face it.
People love that Danhausen. I'm not saying you should not love that Danhausen. He just does not do as much for me as he does for some of you other Hausens.
Maybe this will change your mind. You know who else is not really high on Danhausen right now?
Who's that?
Ed from Pod Van Dam.
You know what? The views of Ed do not necessarily reflect the views of UXWA Entertainment. I like Danhausen. I like the way he moves in the ring. This match was incredibly entertaining. Even Danhausen's his facials and some of the stuff that he says in the ring, I think is pretty hilarious. It's to each their own.
I was thinking about this recently, that I think Danhausen is one of the top 3 really creative people in independent wrestling. Him, Effie, and Warhorse, as in dudes who just took their character, made them stand out, and then went on the internet to help make them stand out way more.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I agree 100%.
So that's why I love that Danhausen. But it was VSK won via pinfall. So we according to our friend Rick here, he will be at Ring of Honor. I'm not Ring of Honor. Been a long day. Hell on Earth.
Yeah, he'll be at Hell on Earth. I think Danhausen was your guy that was at Ring of Honor.
Yes, that's great save. That's what I was thinking about. Next up, we had Wheeler Yuta versus Zach Thomas. Thomas is I don't want to steal a phrase from someone else on the show, but he's been on a kind of a tear in AIW. But I don't know, he's yet to have a real big moment, in my opinion. It's been he's had some pretty good matches, but we're not saying, Zach Thomas, that's a future Intense champion, it's coming up, he's going to get a title shot. It's kind of nah, great match, but nah, whatever.
When I see Zach Thomas come out, I always think the same thing. This is going to be a really good match. It's going to be intense. But I feel like there's a bit of a disconnect with the audience and Zach Thomas. And I don't know why. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's exactly what you just said, because there hasn't been that one, defining moment. When you think about a lot of guys, you think about Bishop or Dominic or the guys that are these, AIW creations, for lack of a better term. And you can think of Dom and Bishop at Mania and Justice and Bishop and the balcony and all these things. Zach Thomas hasn't had that. And maybe that's where a lot of us just are not connecting with him. He had a great match with Eddie Kingston. I forget if that was a 4-way or how that thing started, but it ended up being him and Eddie. And
I want to say 4-way, including Bishop and Dom.
Yes, perfect.
From Party Pals.
That was how that thing started out. And I don't know why, but there is a disconnect. I always feel like the guy, in a world where you kind of temper your expectations of what's really happening and how genuine, the pain and suffering is in the ring. I always feel like he's just getting the crap knocked out of him and he's knocking the crap out of somebody else. Like, I completely believe that everything that's happening is just an insane fight in there. And I love that aspect of him. You're probably right. And I think you said it best. He needs that just one defining moment. And Wheeler Yuta, from my portion of the crowd, everyone calling him Wheeler Cuda. So I think he's got some. I think he's got some fans for a couple of different reasons around AIW. It's nice to have him back in. I don't remember a lot of particulars from the match because it just was one of those that I remember it being a good back and forth, but at the same time, it's hard for me to remember because I just don't connect. So
I think another thing that might have hurt Zach Thomas, which it sounds really weird because it also helped improve him, and it's the simple music change. Because he changed it to Kiss, which sounds very similar to a particular Taz theme. This is a War Machine. And even like the first time I heard it, I was like, oh my God, like this is Taz's theme. Like that's before he started using it. So when he did start using it, it's like, oh, and like there's people like when he comes out, they yell Taz, which I think was funny at first. And I'm getting to a point like, all right, like it's clearly not Taz. But maybe like the choice of theme, because now everybody's thinking Taz, it's kind of, or at least a portion of the audience is thinking Taz, that it's really hindering the connection.
I do. You say that. I do remember the crowd when he came out really flat, or what it felt like was really flat. Now, part of it is, maybe that the different Akron people, but Zach Thomas has been on the show a few times there in Akron. So at this point, if you're a casual only go to Akron show kind of person, you've seen him 2 or 3 times. I wish I could put my finger on it, but I think you hit the nail 100% on the head. There's some kind of disconnect there.
Mm-hmm. But it was Zach Thomas pinning Wheeler Yuta for the win. Yeah, I don't have as many memories of this match, but it is kind of like what you said. It was Zach Thomas beating the shit out of Yuta, and Yuta kind of beating the shit out of Zach Thomas. Yeah, but it was Zach.
Yeah, and I like the fact that I absolutely believe it. That makes me really happy.
And I will say this, like, for a guy like Zach Thomas, he hasn't been in a match yet or just announced for a match yet when you're like, oh my God, like, I really don't want this match. It's like Zach Thomas versus Wheeler Yuta. Oh, okay, cool. That's going to be a good match.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Like, everybody he's been put in a match against, like, oh, like, this is going to be good.
Yeah, you say the guy does not have a bad match. I mean, even outside of the AIW, the guys wrestled, Twan. We've had him over at UXWA against Twan Tucker, and they just beat the living dog piss out of each other. And the guy just does not do a bad job. But there's something, and I hope this next year is the year that he absolutely just turns the corner and goes huge mega.
Next up, we had Lee Moriarty versus Alex Shelley, and Lee Moriarty's another dude who's, this is his return to Akron since his debut, and the dude is, for someone who just joined the company, who wasn't a trainee, this has been a great year for Lee. And I think getting this match was absolutely awesome. And I think he got to show why he should shine.
Yeah, I think Lee's another one of these guys that's not going to be on the indies for that long. I think way back when we said with MJF, we said enjoy him while you can, because he's not going to be there for long. He's a young guy. But the fact that he was matched up against Alex Shelley should tell you everything you need to know about the faith that people have in this guy to just deliver. I love Lee Moriarty. I will openly admit the first time I saw him was in an AIW ring. I had heard of him before, but I had never seen him, outside of my little sheltered AIW, bubble life. He's done nothing but impress. That match with, Alex Shelley, back and forth, and it kind of checked all the boxes. It was a technical, technical wrestling match. It was the guys working body parts, the guys telling a story, in addition to doing all the the flips, flops, and flies. This was, to me, this was the match of the night as far as just enjoyment and me being completely encapsulated in the match.
Not my match of the night, but
Okay.
I'd probably put it at least in a top 3, maybe top 5. Yeah, you hit the nail on the head too of putting up Alex Shelley versus Lee. Like, that kind of shows you, like, the last, if I'm correct, what the last Alex Shelley match in AIW was Janela.
Yep.
Janela's the guy who's in AEW now, and that's kind of a high caliber match for him. And I saw Lee outside of AIW like maybe once or twice, and there was always something there. But I think the thing that I always throw out, the fact that he was a dude who tried to do a lot of the seminars. Like, you could tell this was a dude that was like, I need to do what I can to get wherever I can, to get better, to get into a better promotion, to a bigger promotion. And I feel like with as many independent wrestlers that I know, whether they be on a smaller scale or whatnot, there's some of them that just don't do that. And Lee was just like, no, I'm going to do it. And I think that's really good. That's one thing I absolutely love about the dude. And like, outside of the ring, he's pretty hilarious.
Yeah, he's the dude's really, really down to earth, and
yes,
he's got a big personality. And I like it when that carries over. He's pretty much the guy you see outside the ring is the guy you see inside the ring, just turned up a little bit. So I'm a big fan of that.
I know I use this comparison with a lot of people for different things, but I'm going to throw the comparison when it comes to his personality and how humble he is. He reminds me a lot of Gargano, where I've never heard Gargano say, outside the ring how great he was. He's just like, nah, like, because he knew like where his issues were. He knew where he could get better. And it's just kind of like how Lee is, like, talking to him, like, it's always a great conversation. I think he's very humble, and if you were to compliment him to the most, like, I don't think he knows how to handle that, but in a good way, where it's just like he knows where he can get better. He knows what he's working on. He definitely appreciates it, but he's determined. So if he doesn't get picked up soon by an American company, I see him at least hitting Japan up. And I'm not talking about just like getting signed to New Japan. I'm talking about at least doing some tours over there, because I think I think he will be highly appreciated and loved over there.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Unfortunately, though, it was Alex Shelley making Lee Moriarty tap to win.
Yeah, Alex Shelley makes a lot of guys tap. No shame in that.
Yeah. Now, here's my match of the night. We had Bitcoin Boys versus 40 Acres versus To Infinity and Beyond versus the debuting Bear Country. What were your thoughts on Bear Country?
You like the car crash there, do ya, Mr. Summers? Yeah, this to me is a close second. I love the scramble style of AIW, where John has said it from time and time again on their podcast that these guys just go balls to the wall. This was not 8 guys stand on the ring, 2 guys are in, tag in and out. This was an everywhere. And you asked specifically about Bear Country. I've seen Bear Country on Beyond, Uncharted Territory, things like that on the various streaming networks and so forth. And I've been impressed by them, but you don't realize how big, imposing, and intense these guys are until you like really see them up close in person. At one point in time, and forgive me, I'm terrible with the names. The bigger bear,
the taller one.
I'm sorry,
the taller one.
Yeah, Papa Bear.
No, that's true.
Went toe to toe with PB Smooth, and he looked every bit as big as PB Smooth, and we all know about PB 7-foot Savage style. Yeah. Then those guys just throwing people around and chucking guys. I hope we see them back. I have it on good authority. You and I were talking here. They will be back in AIW before the end of the year, so that'll be a nice return to see. I would love to see those guys matched up against PME or the production or I think we were talking about 40 Acres. AJ and PB taking on those guys. That would be pretty sick. Mikey Montgomery breaking out the new high flying moves with a little help of referee Jake. And then the Duke was there. So that happened. Yeah, that happened.
You called him Papa Bear. You're confused. Papa Bear is George Hallis.
Yeah. Yes, and, indeed.
he might have been dead for close to 30 years now. Anyway,
you had to make it sad.
Some people don't even know who I'm talking about, but you do.
That's all right.
I think the tall one, and this is going to be really easy for everybody to remember, is Bear Beefcake.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. Gosh darn it, I can't believe I forgot that.
The other one is named Bear Bronson. Unfortunately, I don't get enough time to watch a lot of the Beyond stuff, especially like the past month. I was doing a lot more horror movies and like really outside of AIW and Southern Underground Pro. I don't watch much other wrestling. Like I'll stay in tune to like hearing about like names and like, what's going on and like all the various companies. So I'd somewhat heard of Bear Country, but hadn't seen them. And then obviously they're from Create a Pro. Like I've openly said this. I said this in the Major Wrestling Figure Podcast Facebook group that we have through Patreon, that I'm an unofficial Create a Pro fan because everybody they bring from Create a Pro to AIW I like. Yep. And like I think these two are just another great example, and I hope they come back. I really do. Then the match that I want to see is as a friend of the show, Charlie Butters, said at the show he wanted to see a singles tag match between 40 Acres and Bear Country. And I was like, okay, you want a regular tag match because a singles tag match is an oxymoron. And like we were kind of like laughing about that. But yeah, that's got to be a match soon. That's got to be a match. Like, I don't know how many other big tag teams like that size. I'm not talking about big as in like big name. I'm talking about stature. Like you get in the
size.
Yeah, you get in freaking AJ Gray and PB Smooth versus Bear Country. Like what other teams could you add to that match to where it's just like, oh my god, we're getting like a battle. Like I know we can get some, but God, I mean, and a side note, this is why I think guys like Brett Ice and O'Shea Edwards could kill it in AIW. And if you want a tag team, and I've heard people like besides myself that wants this, dude, put Twan and Manders together.
Anything's possible, right?
Like, and like that's the only team I could think of right now you could throw into that match, and like it's just like, oh my god, you just made it better. You add any other team, like no, even the tag titles. No offense, PME, but like you're just talking about just I don't know how just 4 big motherfuckers. Like who else can you add to that makes it even better? Maybe the Duke. But I thoroughly love this match, and it's the car crash, but it's how scramble matches get. And when I'm taking video like segments, like these are the matches that I can literally pick any 30 seconds, and something crazy is going on.
Yep. It's everybody getting everything in.
And I think I got a lot of footage from this match. And you'd mentioned like, this wasn't going to be a match where you had 6 people on the outside and 2 people on the inside the ring, all these tags. There was a brief moment and I don't even know how long it lasted, where it was like actually the teams were on the outside and two people were wrestling, but it didn't last long.
Oh, no,
even when that happened, I was like, oh yeah, that's how this match is supposed to be. But nope, didn't fucking last. And oh, it was so much fun. I loved it.
No, we are big fans of the relaxed rules here in AIW.
And surprisingly, to some, Bitcoin boys, got the win via pinfall.
Yeah. Bitcoin boys with the Z. The
Whiz.
opportunistic, as the Duke will teach. As the Duke will teach the young folks to be. Just stick and move and wait for your opportunity, and win if you can, and always cheat. God damn it, Duke. And
it was at this point of the night, Duke kind of got in the ring, talked shit to Thorne about how, PME needs to put up those titles against Bitcoin boys. Like, they've earned it. The Bitcoin boys are undefeated and they deserve a shot. And of course, kind of know how some of these shows go. $1 Million Man Ted DiBiase's music hits. He comes out. I'll try to summarize it the best I can. We didn't tweet about this only because I was getting the full video. And that will be in the YouTube video, as long as nobody tells me not to post it. But it's not, I don't think it's a big deal.
No, you're fine.
So, Ted DiBiase comes out, and, you got a moment where Duke's kind of, kissing Ted's ass a little bit, and Ted's not really having any of it. Then Duke says, like, yeah, I'm done with the fake compliments now. And it started to be this, like, almost turned into a fight. Duke pulled out a $100 bill for something. Don't remember what exactly, but, Ted kept saying, put your money where your mouth is. Duke starts to walk away a little bit, tries to hit Ted, and then, Ted DiBiase gets a couple shots in. And that's also at the same time, people might not have noticed, PME came out and pulled the Bitcoin boys out of the ring, and then next thing you know, he's in the Duke is in the $1 Million Dream, and then Ted DiBiase takes the $100 bill out, puts it in the Duke's mouth, and then says, never mind, you're not worth the $100. And that's how he went into intermission. Like, did I get that pretty good?
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, I just want to know where that $100 bill went to. Who snagged that bad boy backstage?
CPA.
Probably.
Went out and bought a couple beers for it. Yeah, but that's where we went into intermission, and then that's, I guess, where we'll go to commercial break. After this, we'll be right back.
Are you looking for the newest and hottest in the world of pro wrestling? Then check out the amazing action on Powerslam.tv, the biggest indie pro wrestling channel in the world. Get over 6,000 hours of the best events from over 150 of your favorite promotions from 20 different countries around the globe. Brands like Progress Wrestling, Evolve Wrestling, Combat Zone, Defy, PCW Ultra, PWX, Over the Top, Shine, and hundreds of others with fresh content added every day for only $5.99 per month. Get your free trial today at Powerslam.tv.
And coming back from intermission, we had the third, but fourth, if you consider UXWA, Big Twan Tucker versus the one called Manders.
Yeah, the rubber match and the rubber city will take the UXWA match out of canon, if you will, and say it never happened. Twan did get the win in that one. For those of you scoring at home, this is everything we could have hoped for. I thought it was as good as their other matches, and two big guys beating the crap out of each other. I don't know what else you say about it. I don't have a whole lot of breakdown to do about it.
Yeah. Personally, I like having UXWA in canon there. So, I know the whole, rubber match in the Rubber City, cool hook, but, UXWA is kind of treated like the developmental.
Yeah,
and people hate it when WWE doesn't count the stuff that happens in NXT, so.
Yeah, that's true. I don't have any problems with, we certainly don't have a problem trying out things that maybe you'll see later on in, with the main company, if you will, I guess. We got Manders, and he was just starting to come in. I think we might have had Manders before even the first time he was in AIW. It was almost like was almost like, I don't want to say a tryout because that's not accurate, but I guess for lack of a better term, kind of a dress rehearsal. Him out there to see, hey, what can you do against this big guy? And they delivered over there too. I think all three of their matches in AIW have been, easily, on par with each other. I don't know what you expect. These guys are huge, and they just beat the living, crap out of each other. It's a pretty simple, but it's a really effective formula.
I think the worst match they had together was the first one in AIW, mainly because of how that had the potential of ending.
Oh,
but,
yeah.
But I think Manders has learned from that situation, and I mean, I don't know, but I don't think there was any type of situation like that in the other two. So, hey, shit happens. But yeah, it's just these two beating the shit out of each other, and it's one of those things. It is really hard to comment on a lot of the stuff, but that's why I love Manders. That's why I love Big Twan. And it was actually announced tonight that, tonight of this recording, that Southern Underground Pros got another show in December, and I believe it's December 21st. Big Twan Tucker is going to be making his Southern Underground Pro debut against Jaden Newman, and in Southern Underground Pro, there's kind of a feud right now between Manders and Newman. You can check out their shows to get more of the story. We're not going to deep dive into that, but huge shout out to Big Twan Tucker. That's awesome. I love it when anybody from Southern Underground Pro comes up here, and vice versa when anybody from AIW goes down there. So Big Twan is going to fucking tear it up. I'm pumped for the dude.
Newman.
Jaden Newman. Yeah, Big Twan Tucker got the win, so you can say he won the feud. 2-1.
Won the series.
2-1. I have no idea if we'll ever see Manders back again, but we have the potential in AIW, and I say we like I'm fucking John Thorne or something, but there could be a legitimate Haas division. That boot can be defended nearly every month because there's somebody that qualifies. And
can you imagine the scramble that thing they could put together for that thing?
They haven't had a Haas scramble in a while, but good lord, you could have some fun, and right there, that's two people that could potentially be Haas. Maybe it's been almost 2 years since he's held the Duke's held that boot and hasn't defended it once.
No, I think the Duke. I think the Duke has a little bit of a pull, a little bit of stroke. Money talks, and I think that's the only reason he's still holding on to that belt. Well, that boot, excuse me.
Yeah, like I said, Big Twan Tucker won, so I hope we see more, but we will see. And next up, we had the AIW Tag Team Championships on the line. PME versus Dr. Daniel C. Rockingham and Professional Parker Pierce. And before the match, there was a tsunami of toilet paper. I loved it. Even though there were people in the back row of the bleachers trying to throw it. As soon as I seen it with, I'm like, yeah, that's not going to make it. That's no way in hell.
Yeah, it was weird me sitting fifth row for this one, trying to launch cheap discount toilet paper. I'm not, not the good stuff. We don't waste the good stuff. But trying to throw the lightweight garbage toilet paper, it just was not happening from even the fifth row, let alone the bleachers.
Huge shout out to Dollar Tree. That's where I bought 4-packs, and I think there were some other people that bought some other packs too, which was great. But having that venue so close to a Dollar Tree, before I went to the venue, I ran in there real quick and bought 5.
Yeah.
And it's $5. I spent $5 and some change. Not terrible. I'm not going out there spending $20-$30 on, toilet paper that's, I'm not going to actually use. So I felt fine spending the $5.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Single ply.
Actually, I think it was double ply.
Oh.
I don't think as many places sell single ply anymore. I don't know where you have to go to find single ply besides any public restroom because that's what they have there.
Yeah, I keep wanting to get a case of those industrial rolls. Tossing the ones in there that are the size of hubcaps. I think it would be funny just one time.
Yes. Well, I've thought about doing it because I think he's talked about before, he uses wipes. and I wanted to like take a, one thing of wipes. Like as everybody's throwing in toilet paper, I just throw in a thing of wipes.
Yep, I'm down.
This was a fun match, and we almost saw Dr. Dan's death. Dr. Deathmatch showed up.
Yeah, a little ugly.
And actually, I didn't even catch it. Like, I had to go back and watch a video because I happened to like be looking away at the moment, and it went right through a fucking table, ringside.
Yeah,
fucking nuts.
This was not. So it's not one of my favorite matches on the night. I thought it was a little sloppy. Just looked like we're just off. I don't know if it's Parker a little rusty. He really hasn't been in an AIW ring that much recently. Philly and Marino look good. They always look good. I felt that Parker and Dan were just a little off, maybe as a team. I love Philly Collins breaking out the money shot. I thought that was pretty fantastic. That's really, and of course, Dr. Dan going through the table. It sounded awful when he hit. You heard the table crack and just then the concrete floor. He's still walking around. Dr. Dan's say what you want about Dr. Deathmatch, but he's a tough guy.
Yeah. Other than that, I don't have much to say. But it was PME retained via pinfall. So the PME era continues in AIW. Next up, we had next three matches are rough one way or another. We have Eric Stevens versus Matt Justice for the AIW Intense Championship. And we got to mention Matt Justice looking for Stacy.
He was looking for Stacy.
Did a full lap around the ring and then was like, where is he? And I don't know, I was pointing towards him. And I don't know whether Matt's seen us or not, but instead he picked a corner of the audience and he did two attempts. First one wasn't as successful, wasn't as certain. No. There was more people than just Stacy. Granted, he wasn't in this, but I'm saying there was at least more people than just one. I think they fell the first time and they were a little bit better the second time. Yeah,
he did see Stacy. After a couple of laps, he came over to the corner, and Stacy was sitting on the aisle seat of the fifth row right beside us. So they did make eye contact, and Matt pointed at him. Stacy gave him the, hey, I'm sorry. What are you going to do? So, somebody, was taking Matt Justice home night at the stadium. So Matt tried to jump into the crowd a couple times, but no, there were no takers.
He needs to get Stacy those comps.
Yeah,
get him
absolutely.
A corner seat comp. Make sure he's always there.
Yeah, stick those reserve seats on there.
This match was nuts. This went everywhere for a while. This was a match that a lot of the action was in the crowd by me, guard railing coming crashing in at us. There's also a moment that friend of the show, Jared J. Hawkins, who's a part of Not Ready for Primetime Wrestling with Charlie Butters, he came to the show dressed as Bill Alfonso, and there was a whistle off for a portion of the match between Bill Alfonso and Jared. So that was kind of fun to see.
Yeah, there was a lot of this match I did not see because it was right down there in front of you. And from where I was at in the cheap seats, I couldn't see the outside of the ring. You can just, it's so odd when you go to these and all you can just hear is you hear the impact of something on the floor or something breaking or those metal railings. Something bad happened, but you didn't get to see it. So, they took it back in the ring, and then, as Matt Justice will do, started to break things. And, Eric Stevens says he's, got 6-8 months left and he's done. Mm-hmm. I'm glad he's going to be around for a while. I think, Thorne said on the AIW podcast that he's got Eric booked for a lot of the beginning of next year. I really like Eric Stevens, and it sucks. I suck for not knowing that much about Eric Stevens until, his time in AIW. So, it's one of those things. It's like you can't keep track of everybody, but at the same time, you're like, man, I wish I would have known, if somebody would have hooked me up on this one, I wish I would have known more about this guy, but I plan on enjoying his work until he's done with the business.
I think I've said it before that I enjoy him a lot for his Twitter stuff, but there's even a lot of his Twitter stuff that I disagree with, and I will go back and forth with him, but nothing ever serious. Like, he doesn't like dots. Like, to him, that's the worst. He likes candy corn more than dots. And for me, and the conversation came a lot over the past week on Twitter, where there's people that agree with him that, it's garbage. Like, that dots are bad. But, like, I don't know, fuck.
Yeah, dots are trash.
No, dots are great.
Dots are trash.
Fantastic. They're gumdrops. What do you like gumdrops? That's an old candy. Like, when you call them dots, it's like, okay, that sounds modern, but they're gumdrops. That ages it like literally a century.
Yeah.
But I love them. But I don't like candy corn. I think candy corn's
No,
garbage.
Candy corn's trash.
In the words of the great Lewis Black, it's not candy and it's not corn.
It's not candy and it's not corn.
But yeah, like I'll have fun with a lot of his takes. And granted, there's a lot that I agree with, but there's a lot that I'm like, maybe not so much. But he's still a fun dude. Like, I actually brought dots, and I didn't know how it was gonna be taken. Whenever he got announced in the ring, I almost like threw in the box. Like, granted, not opened and still in the plastic wrap, so like it wouldn't get anywhere. Like, I was just gonna like throw it in the ring instead of throwing like a streamer, because we haven't even done that anymore. Like, that's fate. Thank God that's faded away.
Yeah.
But I thought that'd be a fun joke. But I'm like, nah, I don't want to get banned. So I just jokingly like tried to give it to him. They kind of figured this was gonna happen. Matt Justice retained via pinfall. This is just a dominance of Matt Justice.
Yeah, Matt Justice
after winning the title back. Yeah. So still AIW Intense champion. Let's move on to right before the main event. Getting kind of a high spot on the card. Trey Lamar versus Eddie Kingston. This match is exactly what I thought it was going to be. Trey Lamar getting his ass whooped, and then Eddie talking shit to the crowd. Oh my God. Or just, not to the crowd. It's not Wes Barkley, I'm going to talk shit about everybody. It's Eddie Kingston, oh, you talk shit at me, I'm going to talk shit at you.
Eddie picks people.
Mm-hmm.
He picks, but like, he knew exactly where, and credit Eddie Kingston. He knew exactly where Trey Lamar's mom was when he walked out through the curtain. He knew that was Trey Lamar's mom sitting right up there in the bleachers. So he was able to point right at her, go right at, I'm going to kick your son's ass, or whatever, whatever colloquialism that Eddie decided to put on that. And then people starting to run their lips at Eddie. And I always wonder how much of Eddie Kingston in the ring, when he starts to talk to the fans, how much is legit and how much is just Eddie being a character. And I think I've convinced myself that it's more Eddie being legit now than Eddie being a character. Like, he would happily come out to the crowd and smack your teeth down your throat if you got in his way.
Yeah, pretty. I think there's a lot of. I think Eddie's Eddie. I don't know if there's such a thing as I don't want to say. Maybe I'm just talking random words right now. Pretty much collecting all my thoughts. There's a part of me that thinks what we see in the ring with Eddie is Eddie. But then again, I think Eddie can be, if you've heard him on the right podcast or whatever, where he's this nice guy, but there's this really thick New York persona around him where I think maybe that he knows when to turn it on. He knows when he needs to be that Eddie Kingston. Like,
absolutely.
I don't think Eddie would fight anybody for no reason, but I bet you if someone ever jumped that guardrail to test Eddie, he would beat the shit out of him.
Oh, it would be like a day at the zoo for him. He would have such a great time.
Yeah.
He really would.
And yeah, like I said, this match is exactly what I thought it was. Eddie Kingston won via pinfall. Beat the shit out of Trey Lamar.
Yeah, multiple spinning back fists, and he got the win from there.
Let's move on to the main event. Joshua Bishop versus Nick fucking Gage. I've said it before, the rise of Joshua Bishop over the past couple of years is just mesmerizing. Of just how far he's come, and now getting to being in the main event. Granted, some could say it's like, well, because he's from the area, from Canton, and so that's why he got in there. But still, I think this match could main event any AIW show, and no one would go, well, it's because of Joshua Bishop. It's because of Nick fucking Gage. It's because these two motherfuckers were going to go crazy.
Yeah, I think it's just a nice coincidence that Bishop's from the area and, happened to be wrestling Gage that went on last. If it was, if we were back up in Cleveland at the Odeon or whatever, that's still a main event match. Nobody's ever going to complain if Gage is in the main event, and certainly Bishop has got to the point where he has proved that he belongs there. These two guys. It was the first time I've ever been that far back in the crowd, and I think I said to whoever I was sitting with, like, hey, we might actually get to see part of this, if they decide to do the lap, the circle out of the ring and through the crowd. We actually might get to be a part of this for a change. And, sure enough, without fail, they come back in the back and, using the chairs and throwing each other around, and friggin' Bishop proving that he's just an insane, crazy person when, busts Gage open and, bites the head, tastes the blood of Gage.
Oh,
just
God.
An awful visual that doesn't need to happen ever again. But at the same time, Bishop has turned into a different guy. The nicest guy ever outside the ring. But there's, when he gets in the ring, there's a little bit of a screw loose now. I'm on the train that I happen to think that this guy is going to win the title at Hell on Earth. And I think this was just like his tune-up match. A clean win for, over Nick Gage, basically. As clean as it can be with all the toys and Wes Barkley. And how did you enjoy Wes Barkley being destroyed by Nick Gage a couple of times?
I think I got some pretty good video of that. I like Wes. I like everybody in this match,
Absolutely.
But it was unexpected. You would figure with the numbers game, Nick Gage is going to suffer a little bit more, but no, Wes still got his moments. I think the thing that I like too, there was the moment where, Bishop was going for the win and Wes was like, hey, let me get my watch. And Josh was like, what? Like,
watch.
I'm going for the win. Like, let me win and then get your watch. What the fuck are you thinking?
When you get Gage down, you got to take the advantage, take the opportunity.
And I think that was before the one chair spot where Gage planted him through a couple chairs. Yeah,
and then the Gage starting to get chairs from the crowd. Those are event chairs. We can't use those. You don't want to break you don't want to break the chairs of the venue.
I tried to start a thrift store jobber chant for that, mainly because thrift store jobber got thrown out of a show for throwing an event chair, and here
just one chair too. It was a plastic chair. I mean, come on.
Yeah, and I think there was two thrown in, and they were thrown over Steve's head, and Steve was smiling, laughing. I'm like, wait a minute.
Yeah, I counted 5, but
or maybe it was, I don't remember.
There were a lot of them.
I just remember thinking, what the fuck? What are we doing? And then, Joe was, making his way. Stop it.
Got to stop doing that.
But this match was crazy. And, like you've said, I think this says a lot. For some reason, for me, yeah, they went out in the crowd. But you know what other match went out in the crowd? Stevens and Justice. But they felt different. They handled them slightly different. So I was like, great, we're going through the crowd again. It was I don't know how to explain it. Did you have that feeling?
Yeah. It was I always expect a Gage match to end up somewhere in the crowd where everybody. It's like a weird immersive experience where everybody. It's like, hey, okay, here's Gage. Everybody get an up close look. Okay, he's on to the next thing. Where it's calculated. And I use this phrase. A deliberate violence. A lot of times Gage will do, it's not nonstop things, but it's where he builds to just a deliberate violent act. It's not a typical walk and brawl. It's they'll go 10 or 15 feet to get that chair, to set that chair up, to do something specific. Whereas Eric Stevens and Justice, they wouldn't go 2 feet without just beating the crap out of each other. So it was a different tempo, it did have a different feel to it.
It was Joshua Bishop hitting Nick Gage for the win. So we have Joshua Bishop going into Hell on Earth for the Absolute Championship, beating a former champion, Nick fucking Gage. And it's not just any champion. It's Nick Gage.
Yeah, it's the biggest win of his career.
Side note, something that I've been meaning to ask here on the podcast, and something that I've been thinking about. Where the fuck is Donst?
I don't know. He's another one of those guys that you never know when he might pop up to cause trouble.
Exactly. The thing that I always said about him, like, he was a dude that was just always on every single show, and I think it's what got people to sour on him. And then after he lost to Gage, he went, I don't know how many months where he was at shows, but he just wasn't advertised.
Yeah.
So it came to be a thing where, like, you kind of expected him to be there, and he was. Now we're to a point where the fuck is Donst?
As soon as you forget about him, that's when he'll show back up.
I'm curious what the crowd reaction will be. I might pop for someone who's considered to be a Donst hater. I might pop if we get a Donst version of Nick Gage to where we get to the end of a match, whoever wins, but their music doesn't hit. It's Donst music. Like that. I don't know. That might pop me. That might get me really interested.
Yeah, I would be down. I'd be down to see him come back to even wrestle Justice for the Intense title again.
Ooh,
I'm a fan.
That would be a great Hell on Earth rematch
For sure.
So that was the show. How'd you feel about 200?
It was a good show. I mean, top to bottom. There weren't really any slow spots in it. Some, you phrasing, whatever you want to use, the popcorn match, the piss match or whatever. I was pretty engaged. I felt the second half was a little slower than the first half, and I don't know why. Not that there was anything wrong with any of the matches, just some of the cleanup probably. When you start to get the doors and the tables and the chairs and everything, then it to me, it kind of ruins the flow when you got to clean that stuff up for multiple minutes. But that's as nitpicky as nitpicky can be. Like we talked about at the beginning, I love that venue. That's such a great venue. You can get anything you want. You get decent food. You can get beer. You can get, drinks and brownie sundaes. So it's not like you don't want for anything in that place. It's, great, temperature controlled. It's an easy outside. There's been a lot of venues that have just been uncomfortable and bad to watch a big show. And even back, Absolution a couple of years ago when it's 90 degrees in the building. And, this one, there's nothing nitpicky about the atmosphere, about the building. And I thought it was a solid show. I don't think it was one of the best shows I've ever seen, but at the same time, it was, definitely a high quality AIW show.
It's definitely up there. I don't know how it would compare to the rest of the Akron shows, because I figured that's kind of equal billing for it, of like something that could be comparable. But I have a lot of fun with a lot of these shows, and AIW does something that not a lot of companies do, and it's something I know Thorne has stressed for years, and it's really true, about how a lot of fans don't want to be there for the journey. Like, it was cool, like, for like when I was around for a lot of Gargano, because Gargano was big. But who wanted to be there when, he was within his first year of wrestling, and he was only wrestling probably like Cleveland and maybe Pittsburgh. And I think there's a lot of wrestlers out there that in AIW that we've watched start at that kind of point. Like, look at Bishop. I remember that first match. I remember when he was just getting his feet wet, and now he's gotten bigger and bigger. And the same thing with Dom. Like, I remember, Dom debuting at Tequila Jacks. Yep, and I remember them trying out, like, oh, we're going to do the MMA thing, or he's going to get, like, this entourage and everything, and we'll do all this stuff, which was great. And that's how we started off. I think the other wrestler that debuted on that show was Gary the King Baller.
Yep, absolutely. Gary the Lawyer Baller.
I would love to see him back, but so it doesn't sound like that's likely. But
yeah, we'll see what we can talk him into.
But still, like, watching some of these dudes and like looking at that card. I mean, yeah, you have your Eddies and some of your other. I don't know. Eddie's one of the bigger. Alex Shelley. Alex Shelley's your biggest name on the card.
Yeah.
And then you got Eddie. But there's a lot of, Lee Moriarty making his way up. Zach Thomas being AIW student. PME, more Cleveland, Northeast Ohio, not just through AIW, but, they've been working on it for years. And it's still a lot of people who are striving to become bigger names.
Yeah, that was not a big name card. That was a homegrown card. The matches, if you can think of a match that wasn't an AIW student that was prominently featured. Even Lee Moriarty was the tryout. He came through specifically to try to get into AIW. But you had Bishop in the main event. You had Trey Lamar. with a huge role. Like you said, PME, actually all four in that match, PME, Parker, and Dan, and I'm what else am I missing? Oh, Justice and Stevens. And Justice has been around forever, and Stevens has been around forever. But Justice basically has kind of made his home. The Cleveland area is his home, and AIW is pretty much his home promotion. So I think once again, I think you hit the nail on the head with that. That was a homegrown show. That was a taking your talents on the road to a different market to see how you would stack up. I thought it was I thought that in Cleveland that was a solid, B plus show. I think in Akron it was an A show. It's 5 stars in the Tokyo Dome or whatever the joke is.
I'm going through the card real quick. I mean, match number 1 had Wes Barkley, CPA, being Create a Pro, where we seem to be borrowing a lot from them lately. Next match, VSK and Danhausen. VSK being Create a Pro. Danhausen, a dude who's on his way up and making a name for himself, but still not a big name.
Oh, yeah.
Zach Thomas, AIW student. Wheeler Yuta, on his way up, making a name for himself. Alex Shelley, we mentioned him. Probably the biggest name on the card. Lee Moriarty, a guy making a name for himself. In the 4-way tag match, Bitcoin Boys, AIW students. 40 Acres. Freaking AJ Gray is working on. He might not have the standout 2019, but God, it's looking like 2020 is going to be really, really big for him. So, he's on his way up. PB Smooth, still working on it. Oh, I always forget, we have Colin Delaney.
Yeah.
Former WWE talent. Might not have been long, but still former WWE talent.
Yeah, we completely glossed over Colin and Cheech in that one.
Yeah. Cheech, indie veteran.
Yeah.
That's the only thing I can say about him. He's not necessarily on his way up, but he's an independent wrestling veteran. Bear Country, Create a Pro. Big Twan Tucker, AIW student. Manders on his, trying to make a name for himself. We mentioned PME and Dr. Daniel C. Rockingham and Parker Pierce being AIW students. Eric Stevens, that's another veteran, but he also stepped away for a number of years, and he's making just a return comeback tour. So bigger name, definitely. And Matt Justice, a guy who's been around forever and not an AIW student, but Northeast Ohio talent. I'd put him in the same kind of pull that I do PME. Or granted, PME are AIW students, but that's not where they got their start. Justice isn't an AIW student, but he got his start here in Northeast Ohio, JT Lightning. And then, we mentioned Trey, AIW student, Eddie Kingston being one of the bigger names, and, Nick Gage, CZW, legend, Game Changer Wrestling, new home. He's made a name for himself. So yeah, your top 5 are guys like Eric Stevens, Eddie Kingston, Alex Shelley, and Colin Delaney. So yeah, I think it's great to have shows like this. And if there's people that don't want to come because there's not that many super indie names, that's fine. But I don't know, if you didn't show up to Girls Night Out before, the last time that they had one was the only time Cleveland ever seen Shotzi Blackheart.
Yeah,
and the moment I seen her, I was like, she's got something. Yep. And I kind of looked a little bit into her work, and I saw she was doing promos on her own, and she did whatever she could to kind of stand out. Now she's signed with WWE.
Yeah, she was in one of the early Tough Enoughs too, and then she bounced out of that because of some kind of medical issue, and then she just she exploded on the indies. So that's that says a lot about her too as a person.
So I mean, it's basically what could be said about the card. I love it. I love having shows this close to me. I love having the free parking. But all in all, great AIW show, and I'm looking forward to Hell on Earth. This will be my eighth anniversary from my first AIW show. Kind of crazy how time flies, but anyway. Any final thoughts or last minute plugs before we go?
No, good show. Happy to be back. It's nice to get back on the old podcast horse every once in a while. We have Hell on Earth on the 29th. We have UXWA presents Animal House on the 30th, so that'll be fun. That's we're partnering with the Northeast Ohio SPCA. That's over in Parma for their, I guess, get into their winter donation season, if you will. We got a lot of good names on that card. Some we haven't announced yet. Veda Scott's going to be there. WCW's Big Vito. Virtue tells me you have to announce them as WCW, WWE, Impact, ECW, Legend, Big Vito, but I don't do any of that stuff. So we have a lot of fun things happening. We hope to see a lot of you out for that. In the future, we'll bombard you with more announcements and so forth. I'm on the Twitter machine, UXWA Rick. That's basically the only social media that I really frequent. Everybody's into the Instagram and stuff like that, but I'm not so much. I'm kind of an old man, so.
Veda Scott, never heard of her.
Yeah, no, never.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to like that weekend, but having her at two shows back to back after not being at an AIW show, not being in Cleveland since, well, I just talked about that last girls' night out. That was it.
She's been out of the country for a while too, so.
Oh yeah, In and Out, not In and Out Burgers, but because she is a vegan, but in and out of the country. She's been like really, really busy. Like she's been on top of the world. I freaking love her as being a fan, and I think she's great. Anyway, I can be found at Heavyset330 on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, much like you can find this show on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, facebook.com/WrestlingCheers, twitter.com/WrestlingCheers, Instagram.com/WrestlingCheers. Email, if you so choose, desire, WrestlingCheers@gmail.com, and we have the merch store over at whatamaneuver.net. Like I said before, please rate, review, and subscribe wherever you listen to this fine podcast, whether it be Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, YouTube, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or Podbean, WrestlingCheers.podbean.com. Check out our friends on the Trending Topics Network, such as All Beer Inside, Eurovision Showcase, Old School at the Movies, and Wrestling with Altitude. Check out our other podcast friends, such as Let the Hate Throw Through You, Pod Van Dam, Super Fantastic Podcast, The Road Home from Wrestling, Haunted Home Video, The IndieCast, Center Stage, or technically now Center of the Universe, Sobros Network, UXWA Today, Big Gold Bell Podcast, The Co-Host Wrestling Show, Spotlight Series, I Got Your 5 Stars, and Not Ready for Primetime Wrestling. Check out our other non-podcast friends such as Thrift Store Jobber, The Savage Stash, Powerslam.tv, use Wrestling Cheers all one word and get your first month free, Ringside Shots Photography, Sickening Pictures, Good Company, Stay Tough, Smokin' Jay's Barbecue, WrestleVoid, Midwest Territory, Southern Underground Pro, and the official graphic designer of Wrestling Cheers, Moy Boy Designs. That will do it for us here on Wrestling Cheers, where everybody knows your name, even if you aren't worth the $100. Later.
Making your way in the world today takes everything you got. Taking a break from all your worries sure would help a lot. Would you like to get away? Sometimes you want to go where everybody knows your name, and they're always glad you came.
Why you can say rules are all the same? You're for everybody else, you're yeah.